To whoever's reading this, I beg you to never buy anything off of Craigslist. As horrifying as it is, what I'm about to tell you is 100% true. This all happened about 2 months ago. I was searching for a new set of tires for my Jeep, because the old ones were almost completely bald after a spring of intense off-roading trips. Tires are incredibly expensive right now, so rather than buying a new set from some shop for $1,300, I opted to get some for a better price on Craigslist. After searching for a few days and scrolling through dozens of worn-out tires, I finally found a set that looked amazing for around $700. When I say they looked amazing, I'm talking perfect condition, still around 90% tread. It threw me off instantly just how cheap the price was for these tires, but I figured I'd send over my offer because the account seemed to be legit. I immediately got a response. I'm talking within 2 minutes. It did stand out to me as a bit odd, but then again, the seller could have just happened to be on the app around the same time I was. He responded with, "Yes, I'll take that offer. Can I come to your house? What's your address?" He seemed very aggressive with the way he asked for my address, and I of course said let's meet at a public place out of pure self-preservation. I recommended we meet up at a nearby parking lot, a couple miles from my house and fairly close to his location. He agreed, and the date was set for 2 days from then. He messaged me later, saying that he would only be able to meet me at 9 p.m. that night, due to his shift getting off later and having to leave for vacation for a couple months the following day. In desperate need for new tires, I hesitantly agreed. I know it was dumb of me, but as a broke college student, I accepted the risk. The night came, and I arrived at the parking lot at around 8:45 p.m. and texted him I was here. One thing you should know about this parking lot: there was only one entrance for a car that served as the exit and entrance with no divider. After around 20 minutes with no response, I texted again, "Let me know when you're here." Another 10 minutes passed, and no response. Just about ready to call it and head back for the night, a blacked out van pulls into the parking lot and stops in the middle of the entrance. At this point, I was panicking. There's absolutely no reason someone would stop in the middle of the entrance unless they meant to stop me from exiting. I then saw 2 men wearing full black clothing exit the van, holding what looked to be clubs. They began walking towards my Jeep, motioning me to get out. I knew I had to act quick, or I was going to end up another statistic. Seeing them approaching from about 60 feet away, I threw my Jeep into 4 low and literally drove over the parking lot barrier and sidewalk onto the main road. I saw the 2 men in my rearview mirror screaming and flipping me off. I filed a police report the next day, but the account had been wiped off the internet and there was no plate on the van. I live in fear to this day, wondering what would have happened if they caught me. All I can say is never use Craigslist, especially not alone or at night. I don't know if Craigslist is a good website or not, because after my first time using it, I deleted my account and swore to never use online selling platforms again after what happened to me. I was searching for a new iPhone, because mine is one of the older generations and it's starting to noticeably break down. Well, after searching for some time on OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace, and Craigslist, I finally found the one I wanted for a fair price on Craigslist. I messaged the seller asking if I could take it for a slightly cheaper price, and to my surprise, the seller agreed. Everything seemed normal about this person, and there was absolutely nothing giving me the sensation I was in any danger. Before I continue, I want to warn you about trusting people online who you intend to meet in person. These people are incredibly skilled at showing themselves as normal people, and you'll never know what their intentions are until it's too late. Anyways, we agreed on a time and place that worked for us both. He lived about 40 minutes away from me, and I agreed to swing by his place to pick up the phone outside of his house. I did search up the neighborhood on Google Maps beforehand to make sure that it was a safe place for me to go to, even though I was going to remain in my car. Everything about this area seemed normal. A well-kept neighborhood that didn't look worn down. The day finally came, and I began my journey to his house. After what felt like hours of driving, I reached the neighborhood. But instead of it being clean and maintained, like it appeared on Google Images, it was run down and deserted. The houses were falling apart, hardly any cars, and I found it hard to believe that anyone lived here at all. I'm not sure how the images were so off. My guess is maybe Google didn't update that location, and this person was aware of that fact and used it to their advantage. I wasn't ready to have driven all that way for nothing, however, so I pulled up to the meeting location and shot the seller my "I'm here" message. He responded almost instantly with, "Come on in." I was taken aback by this, because our agreement was he would come out to my window and we would exchange the phone there. I was extremely nervous to get out of my car in this neighborhood and go into some worn down house with no one nearby. But as I said, I wasn't about to waste 40 minutes of my time and gas because I'm judging a poorer neighborhood than what I'm used to. So, I regrettably put the car in park and exited my car while texting "on my way." As I began walking up to the house, I saw the curtain by the front door swing shut faster than a bolt of lightning. I figured he was just checking to make sure it was me, so there weren't any major alarms ringing at this point, aside from slight paranoia. I reached the front door, and before I could even knock, the door opened, revealing an old, tall, withered man standing before me, looking down. He invited me in with a raspy, dry voice, but before I took a step inside, I glanced down at his waistband and noticed something sticking out of it. It appeared to be a knife, or some sort of club. I'm not certain what it was, but I know it was a handle of some kind of weapon. Every part of my body was screaming, "Don't do it." So, with a shaky voice, I told him I changed my mind and I was sorry to waste his time. I was about to head back to my car, but before I could even take a step, he grabbed my arm with an almost crushing grip, and I instantly began to scream. It was clear he intended to hurt me, and I wasn't going to let that happen. My fight or flight kicked in, and I kicked him in the groin as hard as I possibly could, to which he yelled out in a cry of pain and collapsed to the ground. This loosened his grip enough for me to sprint to my car and get as far from here as possible. I quickly got in, locked it, and turned it on, speeding away so quickly I probably burned my tires into the street. I was shaking and crying, just waiting till I got far enough away I could feel safe to pull over. When I finally did, I checked my phone and saw a message from him. The message read, "You lucky bitch. You better hope I never see you again." When I got back into town, I immediately went to the police station to open up a case on this. I gave them all the information I had, and I'm still waiting to see what happens or if they'll catch him. I don't think that house was his. My opinion is that the neighborhood has been abandoned for years, and he was using some abandoned house as the perfect location to try and abduct me. One thing's for sure, I'm never using any sort of selling app again. Please, stay safe whoever's reading this. He's still out there. I beg you all to never buy a vehicle from Craigslist. I bought a 1997 Honda Accord from a small, desolate house in my city. The guy who offered the car looked like a Class A druggie and was bald. As I was driving back home in the new car, I could already sense something had gone wrong. The rearview mirror looked a little off, as it was shifted a little to the right, and my seat was wobbly. Every time I hit a little bump in the road, the seat would basically jump, but would sink back into place with a crunch. At the time, I shrugged it off as old car problems, because this car was as ancient as the pyramids. But something unexplainable was the odor of the car. It was a gut-wrenching, disgusting smell. I decided to go to a car wash and clean this piece of junk car. I pulled into the parking lot of the car wash and paid the man who was running the establishment to clean my car. As I was about to get out of the car, I heard a little whizzing sound. Not that of a bullet, but of a camera. I thought it was just one of the many security cameras this car wash has, which was odd to me, because who's going to steal from a car wash? I went inside and waited for my car to be cleaned. I thought it would only take a couple of minutes to get the car cleaned, but when an hour had passed and I didn't have my car back, I began to get a little pissed. I walked out of the car wash to see where my car was, and that's when I saw 4 squad cars and a coroner's vehicle blocking the entrance to the parking lot. Next to the police cars was my car, with the doors wide open, and a white tarp over the ground. I ran over to see what was happening with my car and why they were going through it. I yelled to them, "Hey, that's my car, what are you doing?" The car wash man said, "That's the guy, get him." The officers swiftly put me in cuffs and placed me in the back of a squad car. I was read my Miranda rights and driven to the station. They walked me over to a cell, and I had to sit in there for around 4 hours. I wasn't told what I did wrong, and I started to think that I actually did something. After the 4 hours passed, an officer pulled me from the cell and brought me into the interrogation room. The officer uncuffed me and sat down on the cold chair. A detective came in the room with the officer, and that's when they told me what happened. The dealer who sold me this car was on the FBI's wanted list. He's wanted for over 40 murders. The car he sold me contained the remains of his last victims. The whizzing sound that I heard was a camera hidden in the mirror. He was watching me. He even had a location tracker stuck in the trunk. I was going to be his next victim. The head was stuffed under the seat. They asked me for extra information, and I pulled up my phone and opened Craigslist. I looked for his account, and there was nothing there. Not even the advertisement for the Accord. It's been about 2 weeks since the incident, and I haven't been able to shake the fact that I've missed death by being arrested. If I hadn't gone to the car wash, who knows what would have happened to me? Law enforcement currently has no leads on this man. He could still be out there, plotting his next murder. Please use caution when using Craigslist.